Hello, and a very warm welcome to the kitchen table on Wednesday. It's good to gather again. I have been posting quite regularly, as many of you will know, on Facebook and on YouTube. And a conversation was started by a comment I made on a post about church being still available to take funerals. The case is that actually our church buildings are closed, but we can still preside at services in churchyards and in crematoria, and also give support to those who need it at these difficult days. During that conversation, which was online, somebody mentioned about the fact that church wasn't about the buildings, and it really made me think about that. Church buildings, they tend to polarise us in different directions. There are those who almost worship the building, and those who worship God and say we don't need any buildings. I kind of fall in the middle, I suppose. I find gathering together and worshipping in a building that has held people together in worship for hundreds or indeed thousands of years is actually very powerful. But I also believe that you can worship in a school building, you can worship around a kitchen table, you can worship in the beauty of nature. What matters is our worship to God and how we see that relationship with God, one with another. There's much conversation going on at the moment about releasing ourselves from this lockdown and how that might look. And the churches being closed has been a real issue. It's been such a rarity in all our church history for this to be the case. And I know many of our congregation members who are deeply, deeply distressed at not being able to worship together in the church buildings that they have known and loved all their lives. The bishop made that decision for all sorts of reasons. Many of them are, I think, very, very good. Firstly, he said that actually it's a matter of being obedient and supporting those around us. So many people are being denied their places of work. People who may have owned shop businesses for generations are not able to go in and work in their place of work. And in churches, we are experiencing the same. In many ways, that's about modelling good practice. In many ways, that's about saying, actually, we are looking after your health and the health of the priests who will be in and out of these buildings. And especially in nowadays, where communities may have one priest for 10 churches, many of them in small and isolated villages. So if you have a priest who happens to be carrying a coronavirus, that's a lot of communities put at risk. There are many valid reasons for that decision to have been taken. Like the rest of life, one of the hardest decisions will be how we change that. How do we come back? There is discussion in the Church of England at the moment about what that might look like, about part congregations being able to come back, to say to those who are healthy and not in a high risk category that it's okay for you to come and to worship, but we will disinfect our churches afterwards. I'm not quite sure how that looks, disinfecting ancient pews, and how you give a deep clean to a building like our churches. I'm also not sure how that looks as we think about how the body of Christ meets. Surely, if we meet as the body of Christ, then we meet as the body of Christ with those who are broken and those who are whole. And for me, a separation, a layering, if you like, the healthy ones can come to the church, will still support the others in other ways, feels really strange and doesn't quite feel right to me. I won't be making those decisions, but I'm also one of the ones who are self-isolating because of my asthma. And so where do I fit in that? Do I go back into church, or do my churches open and I don't come back in? So many questions. How are you feeling about it? I think many of my peers are really struggling with not being able to go in and pray in church, not being able to go in and stream the live services, the kitchen table stuff that could be happening at the altar in church. I was in conversation and reading something that had been written the other day about why we take the position we take. What is it about our desire to have to go into church buildings to pray? What it is to have to go into church buildings to stream a service? And there was a really interesting discussion and debate about what makes us feel the need to be in that space. In amongst that conversation, there was a discussion about power, authority. Many of those who are feeling most strongly about being back in churches are perhaps from the more patriarchal sort of history, if you like. Those who are in churches where the priest is very much the priest as a father, being seen in that role of authority. For others, where actually the kitchen table is providing a place of connection, a place of sharing in ways that our altar prevents for lots of people, then the discussion there is an interesting one. I think maybe there's something about power and balance and marginalisation. Who's on the edge? Where do you fit? Are you on the edge of church? Are you really enjoying actually being able to connect with God without having to go across the threshold of an ancient building and be looked at by a group of people who don't know who you are or where you fit? Does it feel like an alien space that you wouldn't even imagine going into in a church? But the kitchen table over the internet is actually an intimate and welcoming space. Challenging thoughts for a priest. I would really love my church, whichever church I'm in, to be a place of welcome, of intimacy and of connection, a place where you can come to find yourself, to find friendship and to find your faith, every bit as much as I hope you would be able to do that as we gather around the kitchen table. Whatever the theological differences, whatever the ecclesiology, which is the fancy word for the churchmanship that people have, we are going to have to come together and find solutions to this problem. I, for one, hope that when we come back as church, we come back fully able to worship, which includes singing in praise, which includes being in a space where we can feel safe and part of a whole body. Until that happens, I'm very happy at my kitchen table. And even when the church is open, I have to say, I've become very happy at my kitchen table. And I would want to carry on having conversations, to having meals of remembrance and sharing across the airwaves in the same way as we have been doing. So as far as I'm concerned, there won't be a, this is when we move to church, this is when we stop doing this. I hope we can journey together. Some of you might like to step through the doors of church and find that welcome that's there waiting for you, a welcome from God and a welcome from God's people. And I hope you continue to find the welcome at this kitchen table and know the love of God is truly yours. So as we tussle with these huge questions, as our government leaders here in this nation and across the world try and get the balance right of safety and of freedoms, of us starting to flourish again, of us starting to be who we were, which will look different, I think, and become who we now are. But all of those things are difficult and will take time and patience. I hope you journey with me as we go through them and that we find the answers together. But in the meantime, we know we are loved and we are held in our space in homes, around tables, wherever we find ourselves, in the love of God who created us and wants the best for us. Bye for now. See you tomorrow evening. God bless.